This panel is about an interesting tension. And on the one hand, Gen AI is a bit like magic. I mean, it generates these fancy pictures and videos and text, and that's all very nice. But at the same time, it's not a very reliable technology. Actually, it hallucinates. And there's a word for this, a jagged frontier of AI. So it's very good at certain things and very bad at other things where it should be better. And so it's really difficult to kind of make it reliably work. And that's a problem for business, in particular industry, which wants to use the technology to be more competitive. But it's a challenge to find out where the technology works and where it can be made reliable. So this is what we're going to talk about today. And I have three brilliant panelists for that. We have Mehdi Ali. He leads the foundation model research at the Fraunhofer Institute for Intelligent Analysis and Information Systems and the Lamar Institute. And he does research, but he also kind of tries to develop solutions, Gen AI solutions for companies. We have Michael Bartsch, who is the AI risk officer of ai.dopt, an AI startup that has developed a process to help small and medium-sized or big companies to develop Gen AI solutions. But you don't seem to agree, but correct me in the first round. And he's standing in for Martina Schuster, who is the founder and CEO of ai.dopt, who was supposed to be here. And then the third panelist is Hans-Jörg Vögel, the head of hardware software design at BMW. And he graduated from Technical University of Munich, and you focus on communications, embedded software, and all that. And okay, a round of applause. Okay. So let's do a kind of a first round of questions so you can kind of introduce yourself and your organization. So, Mehdi, can you tell me what's your applied work consist of? Kind of you do research on Gen AI models, but kind of how do you use that to find solutions? What type of solutions do you develop?
Yeah, sure. So I'm innovation group leader for foundation model research at Fraunhofer IAIS. And what we are doing with my team, we are developing large multilingual foundation models from scratch because there are mainly two reasons. First, we need this expertise in Europe, so we cannot be critical dependent with this disruptive technology like Gen AI. And second, we have a special situation here in Europe. So we have a multilingual market, multilingual culture, and we have to adhere to these aspects. And that's why we are training multilingual foundation models from scratch. At the moment, we have trained the OpenGPTX model, a 7 billion parameter model, trained based on all 24 official European languages. And we have other European projects like TrustLLM and EuroLinguaGPT, where we even train further and larger models with even a larger number of European languages. And we hope with this approach, we can make sure that the needs of the European market can be addressed with our models.
Michael, so you didn't seem to agree with how I described ai.dopt AI, so go ahead.
No, that was close to the truth. We build large language models for small and medium-sized entities. They should come to us with their problem, and we develop a solution, a KI solution, to solve their problem, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm also covering AI risk, all the governance aspects, because before that I was 30 years managing director at Goldman Sachs, and there my area of responsibility was governance and compliance.
Yeah. Hans-Jörg, in your title it says hardware software co-design, which is a mouthful, but explain this to us.
Well, it's actually quite easy when it comes to AI. The algorithms that we want to put into our cars are very power hungry. And if you don't optimize them, they overuse the resources that's available in a typical generation of chips and ECU technology that we have in the cars at the moment. So what we try to do is optimize AI models as much as possible so that they run efficiently, energy efficiently, but also resource efficiently, so that we make the most performance of a given chipset.
Very cool. So let's do some level setting here. Kind of lots of hype about Gen AI, lots of kind of anti-hype already. Where do you stand? Kind of how important is this technology?
I think it cannot be overestimated at the moment. There's so much development happening in every business unit in a large organization that I think there's there's nobody actually allowed anymore to escape AI. At BMW, we're rolling a large training program since a couple of years now that really every employee all across the organization learns about AI. I think it's essential both as users but also as developers. And you need to get you always need to get started somewhere. So think small, get started, learn, iterate, pick up speed. That's currently the mode of operation, I guess, in many of the organizations.
And Mehdi, how much have you drunk the Kool-Aid?
Sorry,
how much have you drunk the Kool-Aid?
Yeah.
Gen AI.
Yeah, I think Gen AI has a huge potential. I think each of us had this ChatGPT moment back when it was released, and the numbers speak a clear language. So ChatGPT obtained within 5 days 1 million users. So it's nothing that's just discussed between experts, but it's really getting into the society. And a lot of businesses already realized that Gen AI has huge potential. But for sure, on the other side, it has also risk. So there are critical use cases that needs to be addressed carefully. And together with our partners, we hope to address them. But in general, I think it has a huge transformative potential.
I only can agree to that. It's a huge wave of increase of productivity, but the challenge is really to increase also the understanding what is possible and how to approach it. Because when we are talking to our clients, their first question they are asking is, what can AI do for us? And the answer is everything. The challenges for a company hasn't changed. The problems are still the same, but the solutions are different. You can have much better results in estimates, in covering routine work much faster. The model never sleeps. But to bring together the problem and the solution to build this bridge is a real challenge. So awareness and knowledge about AI is crucial for the success of AI in companies.
Yeah, I think as an engineer, I totally agree. I'm totally exhilarated by the possibilities at the moment. As a citizen, on the other hand, I'm also deeply worried. Right? Passing by the sign here at the entrance, Die Gedanken sind frei, right? It goes back to a German song. Yeah. Quite a bit, and we might actually discover that thought indeed isn't free. Yeah. It might be statistics, and what is actually freedom of thought? That goes very deeply, that we need to also address as a society.
Yeah, but I also think you cannot stop the wave. Absolutely not. You have to deal with the consequences and to build the right framework, but you cannot stop her.
No, isn't there a reason to be a bit worried about the whole thing? And I'm not talking about the risks here. I'm talking about the situation in Europe and in Germany. And kind of the narrative, when I'm in the US, the narrative is kind of Germany in particular is way behind in Gen AI or AI in general. Michael, what's your answer?
Yeah, it requires some effort, but these type of challenges are not new. You have to think about what is your goal, what you want to achieve, and then identify the right actions. There are always examples. I don't want to go talk about other examples, but define the goal and identify also the actions which are necessary. And that has to do also with training, with knowledge hubs, with centers of competence. I think there was earlier this year, there was this innovation panel also who came up with a couple of solutions, but it requires an effort from all stakeholders, universities, corporates, public spending also, and there's work to do.
Mehdi, when you talk to your American colleagues, I mean, what's your feeling? Where do you stand compared to them? Kind of are they really so much ahead of what's happening here?
Yeah, we have to differentiate because also in the US, there's some small number of companies which are really ahead, and this is big tech because they have access to the infrastructure and the data. But in academia, for example, it's also they're even facing at least the same challenges that academia is facing here, and also industry there. They have short paths between big tech and the businesses in the US. But I wanted to extend what my colleague said. The good thing is we are at the moment behind, but we have the talent to change that. So it's nothing that we cannot change. So we need to invest in infrastructure. So Euro HPC is already an example where we are building large clusters in Europe. So we have to make sure that we can make use of them. But the most important thing is we have talent in Europe, and we have to make sure that we gather them together, the bright minds, and work on them. So in OpenGPTX and related projects, we have already worked with several organizations. So if all stakeholders have the same vision, we can for sure change the situation.
Hans-Jörg, I mean, on the talent question, I mean, obviously there's lots of great engineers in Germany, but these are mechanical engineers. And we see with your competitor Volkswagen that the world is about, of course, about software. Is that a problem, that kind of the skill set of the engineers in Germany or in Europe in general is not the right type you need for this type of technology?
I would tend to disagree. The talent that we see in Europe, I think Mehdi already made the point. The talent also in AI is fabulous. And we got great academic institutions. We got and people are doing great research, and we got eager young talents also coming from all across the world. Max Planck and other organizations, they are doing great exchange programs as well. And so that international collaboration is fascinating and happening in Germany and in Europe. And I think from that point of view, we're very well placed, and also producing the engineering talent that is capable of playing at eye level. Essentially, if you look at AI as a technology, it's so young. It has been leveling the international playing field of competition, right? A kid with a laptop out on a remote island in Indonesia could be doing the same thing as somebody right here in Berlin with great access to tools and data and resources. So from that point of view, I think that opportunity has to be seized. And I think your question might be alluding more to one fact that is missing, which is the mistrust or lacking the trust of the large corporations in this young talent. You need to give them access. You need to give them a bit of maneuvering space. You need to trust in their experience, right? And we have a bit of a culture that tends to work against that. We think experience comes with age, right? And we have people who are into an organization long enough, then we trust them more than the young entrants that are coming from academia, and that needs to change.
Thanks. And Mehdi, you're working on solutions, kind of applying large language models, Gen AI, to helping companies to build solutions. So where do you already see things emerging? What are kind of great use cases you can talk about? And also, where do you think this is going to move to? I mean, what are the industries where you think we'll see most of the deployment?
I think the big advantage of Gen AI is it's not just fitting for one specific use case. It has really the potential to change processes. And each industry has a set of processes. And there we can, actually, there's no limitation, which can, there's no limitation to a specific domain, because the processes rely on same standards, principles, and we want to apply Gen AI to automate processes. Can you give an example? Across domains, data transformation and data integration processes is involving still a lot of manual work. And in order to boost efficiency in companies, we could use Gen AI. On the other side, there are some domains which are critical, like health. There's not allowed to make a mistake, but there are a lot of also other domains where it's not that critical if not each answer is to 100% correct.
Michael, what do you see? Kind of when you talk to your clients, what do they want to do with Gen AI?
I don't have much of a clue. I must say, because they really focus on what are possible solutions, but haven't asked the right question. What is the biggest pain for the company? And I said that before, the challenges for corporates haven't changed. The solutions have changed. And you have to bring these two pieces together and start with a small project, learn, get experience, also within the workforce, that they get experience on how to deal with AI models or Gen AI, and then develop and then be prepared for upscaling. But knowledge building I think is absolutely crucial, and that is what we experience in every client meeting. A few exceptions where they are prepared and have a question says, this is something what we want to solve. What is the risk that we lose subscribers or employees quitting or so? Yeah, that is sometimes that is happening, but in most cases, people are excited. Oh, I want to use a model. what can I do? And then our question is, what is the pain?
Hans-Jörg, so at BMW, how do you kind of organize kind of this AI innovation? How do you identify, how do you experiment, how do you identify solutions, and kind of how do you then implement them? What is kind of the supply chain of these AI tools?
It grew quite a bit from a grassroots movement, more or less. When I think back, I think in the late days of AI winter, BMW bought a stake in German Artificial Research Center, DFKI, in Germany, in Kaiserslautern, Saarbrücken. We still own it, but despite that relationship, we almost missed the big AI moment in 2013, 2012, 2013, and then sort of were scratching our heads. And quickly that answer was, well, AI is automated driving and nothing else. Right? And then we gradually came to know or learn and experiment quite a bit around that nucleus of a smaller research team that started building advanced driver assistance functions. And we came to know additional applications, so we started to reach out. And all was based on very much on grassroots experimentation, bringing in young academics and entrusting them with some initiative, some innovation money, and then growing it from there. And then also through academic collaboration, quite a bit also, for example, with organizations such as Fraunhofer, we look into predictions of technology evolution. For example, with Fraunhofer, we showed to our Bartsch management a GPT integration into a vehicle 2 months before ChatGPT was born. Right? So we managed to get those early prototypes out there still. So that's part of the innovation culture at BMW, and that's what we're now trying to carry on into every part of the organization, because AI is not a central technology that we can set up as a central hub of expertise. You really need to get it into every part of the organization. And from there, we're now building more processes, building more stable the data organization around that, and that also now identifies AI much more as a tool and as a part of the product.
Can you give me 3 examples where BMW already uses Gen AI in production? If you don't have anything in production, what are the most promising proof of concepts?
There's 3 nice examples. One is workplace or desktop applications. Every desk now has a generative AI, large language model access for research and texting and productivity type of applications. We now have been fighting quite a bit, on the other hand, to get generative AI also into our software development organization. There's many reasons why this is hard to do, but we're starting. We have quite a bit of initiative also with AI for quality assessment in production environments for a number of years already. Have, for example, also published with generative AI one of the largest production-related data sets based on synthetic data. And of course, we use AI very much in automated driving functions, lane keeping, driver assistance features, level 2, level 3 automated driving.
Mehdi, is that what you also see, kind of that mix of projects or proof of concepts, one should probably say in most cases?
Yes, so as you mentioned, code for coding, so this increases productivity. But I think there's large number of use cases. So I call it always each organization has to identify its unicorn use case, which has the biggest return of invest and increases efficiency. And this depends from company to company, and also what's important. This doesn't mean it doesn't need to be the most sophisticated process. It's a process which involves a lot of manual work and where manual cost is high. Or for another company, we have in Germany the demographic problem. For the specific domains, we don't get new employees. So the unicorn use case is to use Gen AI to address this demographic problem. So it's very diverse. But
can you give a few examples of unicorn use cases?
Yeah, so what I would say, internal company use case, which ensures that new employees can get onboarded very fast. So each company has a large number of information, documents, wikis, and if each company has its own language model, getting information and onboard colleagues is much, much more efficient.
Now, I mean, how optimistic companies can be in terms of kind of that Gen AI is going to increase productivity. I mean, in my case, I at The Economist also work on proof of concepts, developing kind of tools we can use in the newsroom to make our journalists more productive. And the more I work on it, I mean, these tools are nice and they help the journalists, but whether they really increase productivity, at least in our case, I'm not sure. What do you think? What do you see?
I would say coding is a great example because it really shows that engineers who code can much further improve their productivities. So you need less people to do the same work, or with the same number of people you can do more work.
And I think on the other hand, you need to be very careful that the productivity really is boosted, is receiving a boost, or whether it's just a bit of a better average across the organization. Right? We have studies underway, not at BMW, but there's quite a bit of published state-of-the-art out there looking into that high performers resist the introduction of AI tools because they really see their productivity hindered or distributed to the rest of the organization. So also that needs to be addressed. It's a bit of a cultural thing, not only a technology thing.
And I think also there should be a dedicated AI office and a cross-functional collaboration, because if you start that every area of the corporate develops its own solution, that is not good. There should be knowledge sharing, experience, and also maybe inspired by other ideas. What could be a unicorn pain? Others may have also a good idea on what to do. But I think knowledge sharing and is crucial in this process.
No, a lot of money is invested by some companies, I have to say, in Gen AI. Generally, I mean, it seems to me that the bets are not that huge. I mean, there are interesting cases, but people don't invest billions in industry in Gen AI. But Michael, do you think that the money, in as much as it flows into Gen AI, is worth the hassle, or are we over-investing in a technology that may not live up to its promise?
I don't know. And there was a Goldman Sachs research report in summer, and there were also two researchers, high qualified people dealing with the industry, and they have two different opinions. Yeah, so it's basically wait and see. How much delay is there that investments pay back? But it's very difficult to say. But I think in our day-to-day experience, we see the boost in productivity. We only have to identify the right use cases, share knowledge, and learn. Yeah, by using and dealing with Gen AI or other models, we learn, and that is every day.
Mehdi, no on reliability. How reliable or unreliable is this technology, or is this really a challenge? Or have people already figured out, for example, to control hallucinations? Where are we at?
Yeah. So the core challenge is in the training principle itself. So the models are basically trained to predict the next token in text, and they're not trained to be to not hallucinate or to be factually correct. So this is one core issue, but you can address this, for example, by training on the right data, which is factually correct, which doesn't contain hallucinations. And they also post a process like alignment, instruction tuning that we're working on. So the phase after the pre-training becomes crucial to make sure that this technology can be adopted by industry.
Maybe I have a good example. Yeah. I just shared. A couple of days ago, I tested, I wanted to test the quality of a presentation in terms of structure, logical, and grammar and all that. So uploaded a PowerPoint, the result came back, good structure, logical, everything good. Good, I thought, happy. Took another one, also good results. And then I got a little bit suspicious, and then I took a bad presentation and uploaded it also. And the result was also good. Although I really took effort in right prompting with Aristoteles, pathos, ethos, logos, and other concept of rhetoric and storytelling, the result was always positive. So I think critical thinking is crucial in this, in the usage of these models.
Hans-Jörg, how does BMW deal with that problem?
Liability is a very huge keyword when we use generative AI, especially when we use it in in-vehicle applications. Then liability, product liability, is always riding on the back of any initiative. take one example. If you take out your user manual, you might have a very complex driver assistance function that keeps you on the road, that sometimes allows you to take your hands off the steering wheel and very elaborately explains when this is possible or not. If you replace that by a generative AI agent that you talk to and you ask that question, can I take my hands off the steering wheel? Right? Then it already is a semantic challenge. Right? Can you take it off the steering wheel? Can you take your hands off now? Can you take them theoretically off? Is the vehicle equipped with it, with a function that can support it? Can you take it off the steering wheel under certain conditions at the 200 kilometers per hour that you're driving at the moment? So there's a lot of implications, not only semantically, but then also legally. And you need to combine the generative capabilities of a large language model that produces an intelligent dialogue with the factual knowledge and the legally reliable knowledge that it needs to be running on.
But doesn't, for a company like yours, I mean, doesn't that limit how much you can use generative AI? Because, I mean, your cars have to work. Otherwise, you're in deep trouble. And is that kind of a general problem for German industry to make use of that technology? Because it's about stuff working and yeah.
Let me take the analogy of automated driving. We have companies out in the world who are promising us level 3 automated driving for years and they haven't succeeded. Right? The German approach in looking into the safety of the whole technology and in the safety engineering approach actually resulted in the only two, and the first and the only two so far, companies worldwide having the level 3 automated driving functions homologated out on the road is to German car OEMs. Right? And we're taking the same approach also to any technology. So in that regard, generative AI is not new. It's another technology, and it's posing some additional challenges, but it requires the same approach when you want to manufacture a premium product.
Michael, what do you tell your clients or customers how to approach this problem of reliability?
Human oversight. An AI model is, I think a good analogy is a new starter in a new job with a big mouse. And you have to train him, you have to develop him, you have to give clear orders what he should do, ask the right question, and also control the outcome. I think that is, don't believe in your own thinking. Be critical. That is.
Mehdi, same question.
But I think the example of the car system is an excellent example. I think here we have a great opportunity also to develop smaller models, which are specified for dedicated domains and that are more controllable, and we can make sure that the training data is not out of distribution, and we make sure that the reliability increases. So I think for European and Germany companies, it's really a great opportunity to develop on-device models which are reliable, and that's also what we are addressing.
Yeah. Now, changing gears a bit, you're leading the work on OpenGPTX. What is that? I mean, obviously it's a model, but and why are you doing it? I mean, is it really worth still kind of training competing models, given that the American companies are so far ahead?
Yeah, so when we wrote the proposal for OpenGPTX, it was before ChatGPT, so we already recognized the potential that this technology has. And for us, it was a huge aspect that we don't want to be critical dependent for such disruptive technology. So there are two goals. On the one side, that we in Germany and Europe build this technical expertise, so we can be sovereign in this technology. And on the other side, we see also the potential. So we need models which can be developed for our businesses in Europe. And that's why we are doing it. And compared to the existing technologies, we focus on all languages, or at least now at all official languages. And from the beginning on, one component of the model is a tokenizer, which splits the input text in atomic units. And we have made sure that this component is multilingual by design. And as a consequence, our training or fine-tuning of our models is much more efficient. In some cases, up to 68% for German text, because for us, our languages are important, and we make sure that our models perform well in these languages.
But I mean, one of the main ingredients obviously is compute.
Yep.
And if I look at what's out there in Germany or let's say in Europe in terms of compute, can you actually compete with like the $100 billion clusters in the US, even if you specialize in languages. I'm just wondering, yes, of course you need specialized models, but even then, kind of the biggies may run away from you because they just have more access to compute.
Yeah, for sure. The infrastructure is larger, but in Europe, if we look now in North Rhine-Westphalia, Jülich, the supercomputer Jupiter, over 20,000 GPUs will be built and next year can be used. And we should boost such developments. So we have already good infrastructure, but we have to increase that.
And we have additional great examples in Europe, right? If you look at Siegele AI just having been acquired by AMD, they also built very successfully language models for the Scandinavian languages. And if you look at what Mistral is doing in France, same thing. So I think quite a bit of infrastructure innovation environment is there for those companies.
Yeah.
Is the diversity of the information an advantage for Europe? Because I think if you compare the US, for example, to Europe, I think Europe with all the culture, all the history, all that, the languages, is much more diverse than the US. Is this an advantage?
I would say yes, because it's more complicated, as you indicated. But the question is, who wants to address this complexity? And because it's of interest for us, we will do it. And then as an implication, we might be the best in doing this. And then we have a great USP compared to the other.
I'm putting my economist hat on, and I'd like to be contrarian. You're talking about Jülich and 24,000 GPUs from NVIDIA, which is great, and I'm still wondering how they got those. But I think Meta is now building a cluster of 100,000 GPUs and there's other projects. And of course, Jupiter is not a specialized AI cluster, so there's some software issues. We don't control the software. So I'm just wondering, shouldn't we be more worried about this? I mean, shouldn't we kind of try to, I don't know, buy NVIDIA, but that doesn't work. But in terms of resources, kind of Europe is not a wasteland, but nowhere near where it has to be.
No, definitely. If I may jump to the question, I was at the German Digitalgipfel in Frankfurt 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and in his opening speech, Minister Habeck clearly said AI and semiconductors are two areas of technology where we must not be dependent on any other regions. Right? We need to be sovereign, at least at eye level, being able to discuss and shape the future of this technology and the path forward, if not even be able to have all the means to develop and engineer with own resources. And we are far from being able to do so. So yes, I agree, we need to be worried.
Let's, since I have you, let's change gear a bit again. So you're working on getting AI technology really ready for the road, and that's kind of, you said it's about power consumption and all that. But give us an idea of what you do at BMW to do that.
One very concrete example, let's start with that, is if you look at what a typical AI developer does is taking, for example, camera data, creating a computer vision algorithm, making sure that computer vision algorithm does the best possible classification of objects it sees on the road and identifies drivable stretches of road. And they're not really worried about power consumption in the car. They're worried about object classification performance, right? And the typical AI KPIs that come with it. And then you suddenly realize taking that algorithm that comes out from this exercise is running very well in the cloud on a huge cluster of GPUs, but it's not suited at all to be running in a resource-constrained, maybe with less quantification and other types of limitations that an embedded ECU then has to do. So we look at the models, we look at the sensitive parts of the models, we look at what can be pruned, taken away, what can be compressed, re-engineered. We'll look into more efficient neural architectures, maybe also develop, not only maybe, we develop algorithms for optimizing neural architectures then to fit most appropriately to a given target hardware. And that also is what we call hardware-aware training or hardware-aware optimization of AI models to really then get the best possible real-time performance out of an embedded system when you deploy those algorithms in the car.
Mehdi, is that a good example for what German industry has to do, kind of reshaping the technology to make it fit in cars in that case, but Siemens perhaps into machine tools, all these things?
I think this is a really important path because it shows a special context with a huge potential. And so we should address this, because if we fix this, there's, I think the revenue is huge. If it works in car, then there's a real business out of this. And training specialized model is also less compute intensive. So one important aspect is training large models. You need to train each month large models. So you need a large model to get to the still better smaller models. But this is one-time investment you do not on a very frequent base. But the specialized models is there where you can make a lot of money and solve real problems. And that's also what we address.
Now, we talked a bit about kind of the disadvantages Europe has, but let's be a bit more positive and talk about the advantages. Data spaces. I mean, that's something which is, unique to Germany or Europe in that case. Why are they so important? So what Catena X, for example, is one for the car industry, I believe. So why is that important? How does that help in that debate?
Yeah, I think the most important advantage is it fosters collaboration between organizations, share data if it's possible, and then to advance the AI technology. So, but I think for us in Europe, it's really important that we collaborate, because alone we cannot do it, and such initiatives are help in collaborating.
Well, what exactly are data spaces? What's happening? Is that really kind of companies sharing data under certain circumstances or conditions and kind of training models on that, or is that too simplistic?
So I would say this is an optimal scenario.
Yeah.
For sure, everybody wants to secure his or her data, but if there are less critical data which we can share and everybody benefits from it, this would be a huge step.
Okay. Michael, now let's talk a bit about regulation and the AI Act. You're the policy guy, and so Europe ran ahead, sprinted ahead with the AI Act, and was very proud. We again set the world's rules, and we're just kind of odd if you don't have a real AI industry, but it doesn't matter. So is the AI Act fit for purpose? Is it too narrow, too rigid? Yeah.
Obviously, I follow all the discussions about the AI Act, but maybe I'm a little bit biased because this is what I did the last 30 years about regulation. I like the approach of the AI Act because what really happened, first they started with the ethical guidelines to see what could go wrong. And then the second thought was, oops, there's something an area where we have to deal with. And then they developed this AI Act, this framework, and what is the approach really? To protect the European values. So define the goal, what should be achieved. And then a little bit on how, some principles, transparency, registration and so on. But isn't that a great approach for regulation? Because we don't know what will happen. We don't know all the developments. We define the goal and what should be achieved. And that, I think, is a very liberal and a very positive approach for regulations. Okay, let's see what level 2 brings, what the AI office expectations comes, certain norms and other things could make it difficult, but the principal approach I like. Yeah, it's not descriptive, it defines the goal, what should be achieved, and I think that is where everybody could agree.
But aren't we putting kind of the cart before the horse, and kind of there's not much out there, yet we draft relatively detailed rules about what should happen to this technology. And also, if you look at the development in the US with Trump winning and Musk basically being in charge of a lot of that policy, it'll be a free-for-all. So Europe is relatively regulated. The US is the Wild West. I can kind of tell what the outcome is.
Yeah, and we have to control the cowboys. Yeah. And that's the reason why Europe has given the objective, what should be achieved. Yeah. And whoever comes to Europe and offers his services, the consequences, the impact in Europe has to comply and protect the European values. that is a great approach. Wherever the developer sits, wherever the model sits, if the outcome has consequences in Europe, it is protected. And then you have to, there are also requirements for the importer. You always have to have somebody in Europe who takes ownership of the responsibilities, registration and other obligations. It's all about protecting European values. Wherever the model is generated, developed, built, everything. If the consequences in Europe, we are protected. I think that is a good approach.
Do you agree? And let me just point out, I mean, Europe setting the rules, that kind of worked with the DSA, DMA, kind of the previous round of regulation, GDPR, of course. It seems to me with this technology, the outcome may be different. I mean, you already see companies not offering stuff in Europe. Anthropic, Claude, which is the best model, you cannot get in Europe if you don't have a European, an American phone number. So, I mean, do you see that as a problem for Europe that there is regulation?
I mean, the motivation between the AI Act is great. So this ensures that we develop this technology in a responsible manner, but we have to make sure that it doesn't hinder innovation. So my concern is that the process becomes so complicated to audit whether our development is compliant with the AI Act that not just a small number of companies can manage and can fund this. So as a consequence, then in Europe, it would be even more difficult for us to develop competitive models. But we have to see. So the motivation is great, but we just need to make sure that in the end, we don't stop our development. And what would be also important, I hope that we later don't realize that we need the systems, because if they're working and they're making value, and then we allow the big tech again to enter the market, but at the same time we stop our own development, this would be the worst case scenario.
But don't forget to mention the sandboxes. Yeah, this doesn't stop innovation. You can play, you can test, you can be innovative and see what would are possible outcomes. Only the consequences should not be. Yeah, and that is the European values.
Hans-Jörg, do you feel constrained by the AI Act of today or in the future?
Yeah,
and what you can do? I
have written the first position statement towards the EU white paper before it emerged into the AI Act. And we, at that point, saw quite some risk that we would have additional brakes being put on and additional regulation also coming to technology that already was quite heavily regulated. But at the same time, now having gone through the full process and seeing the AI Act now and seeing how it's being put into actual implementation and law and administrative practice now in the member states, I tend to agree. It's a great opportunity because if you look at the risks, those are there. If you look at what's happening with the control of hate speech in social media, that's all AI driven. If you look at the control of algorithms that are prioritizing what you see on social media, it's all AI driven. And if you look at what GPT search is now offering in terms of news resources, when it answers your research requests, it limits your visibility down to a number of media houses worldwide, right? All singling out into commercial deals. And we have at the moment a huge risk that ethics and values and shared interest is being fundamentally driven by companies and single owners of companies. And we don't want this, I think. Right? As a society, we cannot accept this. And in that regard, we all have to ardently support regulation.
Thank you very much.